These are the 3 rules that changed my entire life. So what if I told you that almost every outcome in your life is just controlled by just 2 forces? And it's not motivation. You don't need any more David Goggins motivation. It's not intelligence, right? You're smart enough already. It's not your genetics. You have everything necessary in your DNA coding. It's just 2 simple principles that have been operating for billions of years in the background that you have not even noticed yet. And I watched this video. And when I watched this video, it changed my entire perspective on life. I will link it in the description at the end of this video. If you understand these principles, then life becomes pretty predictable and actually a little bit easier. But if you ignore them, you're going to continue fighting yourself for the rest of your life and fighting against the system. So let's get into it. So first of all, what is success, right? The most successful people have already figured this out, right? Most people think that success comes from complicated things. You think things need to be more complicated. You think you need more complex strategies. You think it can't be this easy, right? But I'm about to blow your mind because you're completely wrong. Albert Einstein figured this out ages ago, right? Albert Einstein's 5 levels of intellect. He stated that level 1 is just being smart. Okay, you're smart, right? You get what I'm telling you. Most of you guys are probably smart. Level 2 is intelligence. You're intelligent. Okay, so now you're actually applying and doing what I'm saying. Okay, cool. You're intelligent. Your behavior has changed. You are behaving differently when a stimulus arises. So now you're changing your behavior. Same stimulus comes and now you're changing your behavior. Cool. You're intelligent. You're doing different things. Brilliant. Now, level 3 is being brilliant. Okay, you're brilliant. Wow, you're creating stuff, you're innovating, you're going the extra mile, you're really like grasping and you have a full understanding of whatever domain it is in life. Cool, level 3. Level 4 is you're a complete genius. You're a trendsetter, you're an innovator. You are creating, you're an inventor, you're creating something new. You're doing things that have never been done before. Why? Because you're at level 4 and you're a genius. Now, higher than a genius is at level 5. And level 5, guys, is simple. Yeah, that's right. Simple. The highest level is simplicity. That's the highest level. If things are difficult and complicated, there is no point to it because most people will not be able to grasp it and therefore you will not take the necessary steps in order to make change. Simple is way harder to do than making things complicated, complex, and difficult. It is way harder to strip everything down to its core fundamentals and make things simple than it is to make things extremely freaking complicated and continue to add stuff. That's why I'm a true believer that success comes from subtraction. Okay? And simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. This has been said over and over and over again by the most intelligent people on earth and the people that are truly successful. Because they already understood that there's no way I'm going to make things complicated. I'm not going to make my life more complicated. I'm actually going to make it more simple. They want to play on easy mode, not on hard mode. And most of you guys are playing on hard mode by default. So the reason why things that are simple is so important is because when things are so simple, you can actually use it, apply it, and you can actually grasp it and understand things more. But if you don't really understand it, then it's going to be hard for you to apply it. You think that things need to be complex and difficult, but the most successful people in life, they argue the complete opposite of what you're thinking. This is why you don't need more information. This is why information is not commoditized. There's AI. There's so much information out there in the world. You don't need more information, okay? You need to make things more simple. And this has been said that only 2% of the world's population are actually successful. Only 2%, just 2. And I completely agree. Okay? And, you know, people have different definitions of success. I just like to apply it domain based, right? You could have a successful relationship. You can be successful in your health. You can be successful in your wealth, or you can be successful in your internal happiness. So it depends on what you call success. I think only 2% actually reach any levels of success. Multidisciplinary thinking. And this comes from the video that I've watched from Peter Kaufman, and this completely changed the way I think about everything now. So to understand is to know what to do. Meaning that if you don't know what to do next, that means that you don't understand. You don't understand where you are. You don't understand the gravity of your situation. Mistakes come from blind spots, and blind spot comes from narrow thinking. So thinking so narrow is what's going to lead you to failure. You need to think more broad, and you need to think in multiple disciplinary thinking. So reality actually runs on a few simple principles. And this shows up everywhere in life. Things are always going to involve physics, right? The law of physics is going to involve biology, and is going to involve human nature. Sure, most of your problems, that's what it's going to involve, okay? For most people, okay? So now I'm going to introduce you the 3 buckets model, right? So first is the universe, right? The universe. This is the universe. Then here is the earth. And then here is humans, right? So we need the largest sample size in order to create the best and most accurate theory or hypothesis of the world. So 13 billion years is how long the universe has been created, right? Has been existing. So physics is like the rules to the universe. Now we have 3.5 billion years that the earth has been available. And that is where we find our biology. And then we have 20,000 years that humans have been available. And that we will find that with history. And a little bit of psychology, you could argue. If a principle appears in all 3, it's probably reliable, okay? And once you understand these patterns, you're going to stop guessing about what works, and you're going to automatically know. So in this video, we're going to break down 3 key insights, okay? I'm going to explain to you how the world actually works, by why the world mirrors your behavior, why consistency beats talent every single time, and why win-win relationships outperform everything else. So let's get into it. So, the mirror principle. So here's the strange truth. So the way the universe or people treat you has very little to do with them, and it has a lot more to do with what you did first. Okay? And I know you're like, oh, it's not my fault, blah, blah, blah. Let me explain. So in this first example here, obviously we have physics, right? Which is if you push an object, it's going to give you an opposite and equal reaction, right? It's just physics. We understand the law of physics, okay? In this situation here, right, and when it comes to biology, let's use biology as an example on the earth. On animals, right? If you pet a cat, it's going to, like, you know, pet you back and feel good and purr. And if you, let's say, grab its tail, it's going to scowl at you and it's going to, like, react in a negative and angry way towards you, hostile way, based on how you behave, right? Based on what you did first, right? For example, for a human example, right? Let's say you're in an elevator, right? I want you to think of this. And you walk inside of the elevator, and I'm going to put 3 scenarios. The first scenario is that you're in an elevator, and you look at this person, and you smile at them, and you say good morning. What do you think is going to happen? They probably, most likely, are going to smile back, and they're going to say good morning back, No matter what mood they're in, they're going to say it back, right? The second thing is what you can do is you can be negative. You walk inside the elevator looking completely negative, looking pissed off, right? And like you scowl at them, or you grill them a little bit, or you give them a nasty face, and they're probably gonna look at you weird and maybe back away and maybe give you a nasty face and be like, "What's wrong with this guy?" Right? And the third thing that you can do, and that most of you guys do, is you maintain a neutral expression. So you walk inside of the elevator, right? You don't say hi, you don't smile, you stand there, and you're just waiting for the elevator. You stand there, with the awkward silence, and you just stand there, right? What do you think the other person is gonna do? Most likely, and not, they're gonna stand there, and they're gonna do the same thing that you're doing. They're gonna look at the empty wall. They're just gonna stand there. They're going to mirror back whatever the hell you do. So this is called mirrored reciprocation. And I know what most of you guys are thinking. The people that are thinking very negatively, because you tend to think negatively, you're going to tell me, but no, not everybody is going to do the same thing back. There are going to be some people that are not going to do it back. They're not going to reciprocate. They're going to do their own thing. They're going to, yeah, sure. Okay, cool. Yes. About 2% of people are not going to reciprocate. They're just not going to, right? You can say good morning, they probably won't say anything. You can be angry, they probably will continue to stay in their frame. You can be neutral and maybe they'll do something negative or positive, sure. Those are the 2%, okay? So start thinking about the 98% of situations that are going to occur in your life and stop putting so much energy into that 2%. Because if you want different results, you need to change what you send first, okay? So people will mirror more your emotional tone that you introduce. That's what's going to happen. So stop thinking about that 2% of weird and bad interactions of people screwing you over or people not reciprocating the love that you give them. Yeah, it's going to happen 2% of the time. So let's not focus on that. Because if you focus on that, and that's where your life is going to be. So let's move on to going positive first. So when you consistently go positive first, something interesting happens, okay? People begin to trust you faster. Opportunities begin to appear faster. And the world tends to give back faster. And doing something before someone else or giving before you receive actually puts you in the energy of courage, right? And the energy of courage actually pushes you towards that positive energy. You break through that negative barrier and now you're automatically in that positive energy. So let me zoom in to explain what I mean here in the emotional frequency chart. So this chart here, right? Obviously there's some shame, right? You see shame, right? You see guilt, right? At the lower, weak, destructive energy, right? Maybe you have some apathy, right? Where you're feeling some sort of despair. Maybe you have grief, where you have regrets. You have some fears, right? That you're thinking about and you get a little anxious. And maybe you have desires where you're in that needy state where like, I really want this. And you're craving something, right? So, and then maybe there's sometimes that you get angry, right? And you lean a little bit more towards hate. And then the last one right before courage is pride, right? But it could be scornful, right? You can be very demanding and be like, I'm prideful, I deserve this, blah, blah, blah. Once you start to give first and go first, you automatically get into the category of courage. Your energy becomes courageous, right? That's what happens automatically. So you automatically get pushed in the 200 hertz of energy. So your energy starts to become expansive now instead of contractive. So that's why it's so important for you to go first and be positive and have that positive frequency of giving, because it's very hard for you to like do something first and give something to someone in a very negative way. It's very difficult. So courage is where you need to be at. If I was to summarize it. In order to have courage, you need to give first, and not only just give first, but be positive. Be positive first. Give first. Open up that flow of the universe where you're going to give and it's going to give back to you. Not in this weird energy where you just want receiving things and I just want, right? I really want this and then my desires and I really want this and I'm craving to eat chips and I really want that. And that's low energy, needy things. Needy energy. We don't want that, okay? That's not going to yield you the best results. So if you want health, right, then you must give care. Give care to others, give care to yourself, self-care, whatever it is. If you want wealth and you want money, then you must give value, right? You must alleviate people's pain. You must help people out, okay? And you must give it first. If you want better relationships, then you need to give love, okay? You need to give it out first. You need to love other people first without them even earning your love, which is a little bit scary, and that's why a lot of people have problems with their relationships, right? You need to give your attention. And a lot of people don't really want to pay attention to people that don't deserve their attention, which I understand. And if you want happiness, then you're most likely going to have to give meaning to things. You need to give meaning to things in order to happiness. Because honestly, the world, we exist in this planet and there's no true reason why. There's no point of being on this earth, really. You need to give meaning and assign purpose to things. So this leads me directly into the second principle, which I'm going to talk about. Because starting positive, right, and then doing something once is pretty freaking easy. It honestly is. It's easy. But the real advantage that you have is doing something consistently. So the most powerful force in the universe that humans can actually have is the eighth wonder of the world, and that is compound interest. And compound interest is just simply doing small improvement, being consistent over a certain amount of time. And that will lead to exponential results, and that leads to progress. So this is compounding interest. And the problem that a lot of people have is that they can start here, right, in the phase one, right? They start here, maybe here, but they see that they're not really yielding that many results. So guess what they do? They give up. They give up. And then they start all over again. They start all over again here. Maybe they go to here. And they go to here. And some people, sometimes they actually go here. And they see, whoa, I'm getting actually a little bit more results. But it's not the results that I want. So they quit. And that's what happens. Until you're able to go through this, where you're not yielding as much results as you would like, and then you're able to push through and stay consistent for a long enough period of time, depending on the domain that you want to elevate, then you will start yielding the incredible results if you stick with it long enough. And that's the problem. That's why it's the eighth wonder of the world. And he who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't, pay it. You're going to have to pay the price if you don't understand this in your life. You're going to have to pay the price eventually if you don't understand this concept. So think about evolution. Evolution in general is small improvements over billions of years created by every living organism on Earth and making tiny, rapid, repeated changes over time, and that produced the results of evolution in different species. The human success works the same way. Is you have a problem, and like I mentioned before, you need to gain that small incremental progress over a long enough period of time in order for you to produce the results that you want. But the problem is that most people, they quit halfway. Hell, they quit even before they produce a small amount of results. Most people keep starting all over and over and over again. And that's the problem. They work hard for a few months, and then they go, I'm going to stop. And what happens when you stop is that you reset that compound interest, because it resets. It resets, you restart again later, and you never allow the compounding interest to take over. You never allow the law to do its thing. You don't give it enough time. Why? Because you keep emotionally reacting You keep emotionally reacting and not letting it do its thing, which is the most powerful force in the universe. So let's give some real life examples, right? For fitness, working out 3 times a week beats doing an extreme program for 3 months. Trust me, I know this. This is what I did. I devoted my life. I said, you know what? I'm only going to work out 3 times a week for the rest of my life. And I'm going to continue to do that for years. And now it's been about 11, going on to 12 years of doing that consistently. And I figured out the trick. I figured out exactly everything that works. Why? Because I was consistent for a long enough period of time to yield myself the results that I wanted. Okay? For learning, studying 20 minutes a day beats cramming for hours a day. Most of you people are learning too much. You're watching too much educational content. And what's happening is that the more that you learn and the more content that you consume, the dumber that you actually get. Because that means the more paralysis you gain in your head. The least you start analyzing things more. You think that you need more information. The more information that you consume, the more information you think you're going to need. Because the more that you figure out that you know, the more that you figure out that you don't know. That's just how the world works. And it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks. Right? And then if you're owning a business and you're running a business, posting content weekly for years just beats you trying to go viral every single time and doing these random viral attempts. Just post consistently every single week, which is exactly what I am going to be doing. I'm going to be consistently posting every single week. Why? Because I am running a business. So the difference between linear and exponential progress, this is the difference. Because you think that things need to be linear, right? You can be doing, this is how progress really looks. Being consistent, this is how it looks. Right? This is what it looks like when it comes to the learning pyramid, right? You are first, you learn something, you can read it and you'll gain more information. Then you actually listen to it and see it visually and you gain more information. But then you need to start demonstrating that you know what you're talking about. You need to start having discussions about the thing. Then you need to practice actually doing the thing. And then you actually need to teach others. And that's when you fully will grasp a concept. But if you stay stuck in lecturing and reading and listening to audio and podcast and watching things, you'll never gain this other side of knowledge that you're missing. You'll never get what you want. So if you interrupt the pattern, then the compounding resets, like I said. It keeps resetting. And this is why people like Warren Buffett or any famous celebrity or any successful person that you can ever meet in your life, how have they built the success that they have built? It's not because they made a few genius decisions. It's because they allowed the compounding effect to work for decades for them. For me, it's been a decade for my fitness. Now, it doesn't need to take a decade. The only reason why it took a decade for me is because I overcomplicated everything. But once I started to simplify every single thing, I made 6 months of progress after like 6 years of grinding. So this leads me to my third insight. Because compounding doesn't just apply to money or skills. It applies to relationships as well. So the win-win game. Every human on earth is searching for the same 5 things. Everyone is more similar than you think. If you understand this list, your life becomes more simple. So fundamentally, people are looking for the same 5 things. They're looking for attention. You're looking to be heard. You're looking for respect. You're looking for meaning or significance in something. And you're looking for love and connection. You are looking for all of these things. It doesn't matter who you are. There's no way you're going to sit around and have people not pay attention to you. That you're going to feel bad. You're going to crave that attention from something or for someone. You're going to crave being heard, right? You want to be listened to. You want somebody to listen to you, right? You want respect. You don't want to be disrespected. You want respect. And that's why disrespect feels bad. right? You want to find meaning and purpose in the things that you're doing, because if not, then what the hell is the point? And the last thing is you want that love and connection. You're searching for that love, and you're searching for that connection in your relationships. And if someone consistently provides you these, this is what builds trust. Okay? So think about the people that you enjoy being the most around. They probably give you most of these things. Actually, I think they give you all of them. I think they pay attention, they hear you, they listen to you, they respect you, they give you some sort of meaning of why you're with them, and then you get some sort of love and connection from them. I'm sure that's what it is. And these aren't just luxuries, okay? These are fundamental human needs, and that's what I need you to understand. This is a big loneliness epidemic right now. And I want you to understand that every single person, regardless of how the internet is going to transform in the next couple of years with AI, everyone is looking to satisfy these needs. And everyone is running different strategies in order for them to meet that. So you need to become that person. You need to become that person. And how can you apply this immediately? So when you talk to someone, just ask them questions before giving your own opinions on things. The second thing is you listen carefully instead of waiting to respond, right? Stop trying to give out and be like, I have my opinions. No, just listen to them. Then acknowledge their perspective, acknowledge what they're saying, and show their appreciation for the fact that they're actually sharing stuff with you. That's just it. And once you do that, something powerful begins to happen. It begins to signal to the world that you actually matter. Because when people feel that, then they'll start to reciprocate that. Okay? Because naturally, humans just want to reciprocate. If you give me something, it's cool, I feel good, but honestly, I'm going to want to give you something back because it just feels weird accepting things. And over a long enough period of time, then those interactions, they compound. Your trust compounds. Your reputation compounds. Right? Your relationships, they compound. Everything starts to compound once you become that person. Once you jump into the identity of the person who deserves these things or actually are those things. So eventually people are going to want to help you in whatever endeavor that you're pursuing. And it's not because you forced it, it's because you pulled it towards you. And it's because the universal system naturally created win-win outcomes. It is the natural force, okay? So if there's one thing that I want you to remember, I really want you to remember this video. And down below, I want you to honestly watch the video. It changed me. Watch the video. It could change your life too, okay? If you see the world the way I see it, then you'll understand why I behave the way that I do. So in order to change your behavior, you need to change your worldview. And in order to to understand behavior, you need to see the worldview of somebody else. Cool. But in order to change your behavior, you need to change the way you see the world. You need to change your lens. That's the only way your own world will change. I want you to understand that everything connects. The universe runs on what? Mirrored reciprocation. We understand the mirror principle. Success runs on compounding. It's a compounding effect. That's what success is. And humans all want the same 5 things. And loss aversion stops us from acting, right? Because we think we're going to lose, but if you actually run win-win relationships, you're going to be forced to act more, right? You give and then you get. Stop focusing on that 2% of bad stuff that are going to occur in your life and focus on the rest of the 98% of good stuff. Stop focusing on the 2% of people that are going to screw you over, that are not going to mirror back what you give them. Who cares about them? Focus on the 98% of people who will. So if you remember nothing else from this video, nothing else, I just want you to remember this formula. I want you to first go positive. Second thing, you need to go first. And the third thing is that you need to go consistently. So remember this quote: frequency first, positive frequency first, action after, because you're not going to be able to actually do things from a negative frequency because you're going to be operating from those lower levels. And when you actually do those things, they're still not going to produce the results that you want. So you need to tune your frequency first in the positive frequency, which I already showed that courage is important, is that first level. Action after, and then maintain momentum. Okay? Don't do anything that you're not going to be able to sustain for a long enough period of time. And I'm going to tell you right now, the only reason why you're not going to be able to sustain whatever you keep falling off from is because you're making it complex. Because if you were to make it simple, it'll be easier for you to adhere to that. So the world mirrors your emotions and it mirrors your actions. Understand that. Consistency compounds your results. And win-win relationships outperform everything else. Okay? So if you apply these 3 principles, your life will start to move forward in a completely different trajectory and direction. Because you are no longer fighting reality. You are working with it. You need to work with the universe. You need to work with these laws and these forces and these principles. The world is not complicated at all. It's reciprocal and it's compounding. Those are the 2 main laws that I want you to understand about the world. Okay? Because most people fail because they're not positive. They do not act first because they're expecting to receive shit. And they do not stay consistent for a long enough period of time for the universe to give them what they deserve. I hope this helps, okay? I hope this helps. Watch the video in the description.